let's try and do a review of He Knew He Was Right by Anthony Trollope, a 1869 novel, which depicts the failure of a marriage due to the jealousness of a husband, and perhaps the kind of stubbornness, the willfulness, I don't know, willfulness, the vanity of the wife. This is Louis Trevelyan, traveling the world, happens to meet up with the governor and his family of the Mandarin Islands, which I think are a fictional island, and meets Emily Rowley, or Sir Marmaduke Rowley, the governor's daughter, and they marry. And definitely the Rowleys see this as like, wow, this is great, because Sir Marmaduke does not have money. He is definitely kind of the civil servant who is doing well in the colonies, but does not have any money and does not have any way of being able to lure prospective suitors to his daughters. So this is seen as like kind of good all around. There is definitely at the beginning there's some thoughts. It's like, she's very strong-willed. I don't know if she's like going to be the best match for this kind of more scholarly, rich man, Louis Trevelyan. But no, the marriage goes ahead. But pretty soon, after a couple of years or so, they've had a boy, a little Louis Jr. There is trouble, and that trouble comes in the form of Colonel Osborne, a family friend, who is known as a flirt, as a rake, as a guy who has messed up other marriages before by intruding upon them. He likes nothing better than to flirt and to kind of carry on with young married women to sort of boost his own ego. There's definitely a lot of ego in this book. And that does not go well. Louis at the beginning is kind of just like, I don't like this very much. He starts getting more and more kind of like unhappy about this, and finally he tells his wife, who's very much like, this is a family friend, it's got nothing to do, no, it's like, no, I don't want you to see him anymore. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And there are repeated contacts with this guy, and Colonel Osborne is such a egotist that he finds it kind of, oh, hey, I'm still in the game. I still got it, even though he's like, I think a little bit older than Sir Marmaduke himself, her father. And it gets worse and worse, and it just goes from bad to worst until finally they do separate. And it goes from there. And Louis Trevelyan goes down a slow and steady path to kind of a sort of madness. It ruins his health. He ends up leaving the country. He ends up ends up there's a battle over the child where the really does not. It's one of these. It's almost like a Victorian version of kind of I think of something like Kramer versus Kramer, of like, just like, this is like nasty stuff between these two characters that is obviously hurting their child. Though Trollope doesn't really dwell too much on the child, other than you can tell that this is like tough. It's like at a certain point he doesn't know who his father is, and he's kind of upset when he sees him. He becomes very kind of quiet and inward. It's like, it's really not good for the kid. And as a result, of that, and of just like of Lewis's, mounting more insane kind of jealousy and kind of trying to play the tyrant over his wife, but also his wife, who on her side is very prideful, is very much, how dare you, and no, I'm not going to do that. Like, she won't bend at all to her. She won't compromise on her side at all to her husband. And they both basically exacerbate the situation to the point where I really spent a good hunk of this novel not caring at all about either one of these characters. They're both, in their way, really unlikable. Now, by the end of the novel, I start to feel pity for one of them, and the other one sort of redeems themselves a bit. Redeems themselves, and it's like, oh, okay, you've kind of grown as a person. But that happens like pretty late in the novel, so it makes for kind of unsatisfying, in these are kind of the main title characters, and you just, for so much of the novel, I really didn't feel sympathy for them, and they were like, oh, we're going back to that storyline. It was like, it's really unpleasant. It's like, oh. So that's tough. Then we get to the subplots.